and give you is a little bit of time to even get into your materials and maybe even think about some planning and stuff. And so we will build that in towards the end. And I do want to make sure that we spend some time in the afternoon trying to get you guys all an account. But I want to start with a small group first before I have everybody do that, just to make sure that we're able to get on and get everybody an account to work with. So I know that all you talked about during lunch was being a writer. So what were some of the what are some of the things that you're excited about that you heard about this morning in regards of being a writer for your students? Okay, that's not a good sign. But I'm going to go to the wait time and tapping my foot. Go ahead.
I think it's a much more engaging way to have kids write. And I don't know, my experience with kids is that they don't want to write, you know, and so for most kids, not all kids certainly, but for a lot of kids. And I think this will engage them in a much better way and invite them.
Sure. What are others thinking?
We've never really had a program. You know, we've had a box that said, but never anything that had the pacing set for you, had a lot of structure with it, had, you know, built upon earlier lessons.
Sure,
So
sure.
I don't think in elementary we really never had anything that was really a program.
And I hear you. I hadn't either. It was a workshop, which this is the same thing, but now I don't have to go find the books and figure out what to teach them. Like, it was so nice that they did all of that, so I can really focus in on the kids and the writing that they're doing and the thinking that they're doing. So yeah, I agree with you. And I think too, hopefully you'll be able to see over the course of a couple years the difference that it makes because you have it K6, and because you have it in all of your buildings, as opposed to in Las Vegas, we don't do anything consistently throughout that district just because we're so big. So sometimes it's hit or miss. Sometimes you have to backtrack with what the kids have had previously in instruction. I think you're going to see in a couple of years, you'll get kids day one. They already know the prompts. I agree with, I disagree with, or they already, are okay with having a notebook and getting those ideas. So I think you'll definitely see that play into being a definite plus because you are, implementing it district-wide. I think I saw a hand over here. Yeah. They've really done a good job with it. Really, really good job. There's only one that I've heard people kind of question, and but now I'm thinking it might be making meaning. Fourth grade? You know what I'm? Fourth grade? Oh no, I don't even know that. I was thinking that one guy that writes those strange books that you can kind of interpret it a different way. I can't think of his name. It's right in the very beginning. No. They've used his. It's right in the beginning of fourth grade. Maybe it is this one. I can't think of his name. But anyways, I think you'll do just fine with it. Should have even gone there. It does really have a lot to offer for kids, and I think it also makes sense that you have making meaning. You're going to see so many similarities as far as the cooperative structures, just the philosophy behind it, that student thinking, the facilitation tips, and it's just nice to have both of those that build on each other as opposed to two completely separate, beliefs as far as how to go about that instruction. So with that being said, I do want to just kind of to keep you interested, I do want to just change gears just for a few minutes, talk a little bit about making meaning if that's okay with everybody. I want to give you a chance to ask any questions that you might have about it, because have you had any follow-up training with making meaning? Okay. So I do want to ask, just see if there's any questions out there, but then I also want to share with you some of the features that you will now have access to once you get the new making meaning, because it's really kind of exciting. I'm thinking about quitting this job and going back in the classroom. I want to try it out. I'm so excited. I had to quit looking at it the other night because I had other things to do. But it's kind of exciting to see what they have to offer. So,
Yep.
Did you follow, you had your book, and did you follow a page?
Good question.
Paragraph?
Yeah. So I, when we used it, I did follow the lessons exactly as written. I didn't change the lessons at all, beyond if there may have been a book that was too long, I may have to extend into over the course of a couple days. as a grade level in 5th grade, we did struggle with expository coming on so quick in the beginning of Making Meaning. We just weren't quite ready for it. So we had explored maybe not doing that so quickly and doing more of the, more fiction books first. And so we had years where we did do that. We had other years, like the last year I was in the classroom, we did not. We did just kind of follow it straight through. I think once you've set the stage in the beginning, you have a little more leniency to do that. It's just that beginning really sets up everything. I did look at the front matter of a grade 5, the new one, last night, trying to find out what it said in regards to that. I couldn't find anywhere in there where it said, yes, you have to, or no, you don't. So I think it was written to be done in order, but I think that as long as you get through those first couple units and establish the routines and the procedures and get kids, like maybe expose.
Are they 15 minutes or are they?
Yeah, those lessons, and I did read that. I don't remember what I read though, but I know that they shouldn't be any longer than 20 minutes. And I know they did some revision with those lessons, some of the ones that were lengthier, to break them up as they did in Being a Writer. But that mini lesson really should be able to fit in a 20-minute time period. And then you, of course, have your IDR time, which would come after. But like for me, I could not just devote 20 minutes every day to IDR. I didn't have it in my schedule. So what we did is we taught Making Meaning for 15 to 20 minutes right off the bat in the day. That was the first thing we did. And we stopped at 20 minutes because we had RTI groups that were coming in our room right at that time. We had to. So we did that for a little bit after. We did that for 15 or 20 minutes. Then what I did to address the IDR, you know how it'll give you a purpose for what they're reading for that day? And so it'll say, we want them to mark a place where they visualized or whatever, and then share with their partner at the end. So what I did was we had 5 to 7 minutes of everybody doing IDR. 5 to 7 minutes, and so I would put what it was their purpose was. You're going to be talking to your partner about a visualization that you made at the end of the time. They get their books, they find their spots, they sit next to their partner, they read silently, only 5 to 7 minutes. I confer with at least one kid if it's a good day too. And then at the end of that time, they talk to their partners about that because I wanted kind of a way to wrap it up. But then as soon as that time was over, I'm doing guided reading groups, or at the time it was RTI groups. So a lot of kids would go back to the independent reading because they didn't have a guided reading assignment, they didn't have a journal response due that day, they didn't have, something else due. But some of the kids did have a guided reading assignment, or I needed them for guided reading, or they had so it depended, but at least it guaranteed me every single day they're all getting at least a small amount of time to do the IDR and try out whatever it was that we were working and have a chance to talk to their partner. So that was the only way that I could figure it out to work. And I think that's the most difficult thing with Making Meaning is how do you fit that piece in with everything else that we have to do for that ELA block of time. So it was just what worked for us. But 15 to 20 minutes for those lessons. It really is, and I know that they've added content, so some of the things that they've added to the new Making Meaning is closed reading. They have added a lot more support for the IDR, so if that's going to elongate those, like the closed reading, I don't know how that fits in there. I haven't looked at it enough to find out, but yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering, do you
Oh,
have
sorry.
every student journal after every IDR?
Yeah, good question. No, because we never want to get our kids, journal in the Making Meaning response book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I never used that part. Sorry. And not because I didn't like it, but I already had another log that I used, and it kind of did the same thing. So I had,
After every IDR?
I did have them write out, I had like a reading log, and I did have them every day, yes, put the title, the author, and then you know what I started doing, and I can send it if anybody wants it. Then I also, once again, I have control issues, so they had to write the title, the author, the page they started that day for IDR, the page they ended. That way I can make sure they're progressing through a book and that they're not changing books every day. And then they had to write, there was like a checklist that they had that would give them all the things that they could possibly be doing for independent time, like journal response, book evaluation, guided reading assignment, those kind of things. they would have to mark what is it that I need to do tomorrow. Because I would give a guided reading assignment at the end of reading time, and the next day they like forget. And maybe it wasn't due for a couple days, but that just kind of reminded them what they had to do the next day. But it took no more than a minute for them to log that stuff in. Now, as far as responding and writing about their reading, I had journals for them, and I'd be more than happy to share that as well. It's just something I created. It has nothing to do with this. They had a 3-prong folder that had paper inside of it. They had been taught how to write me a letter, and so they wrote me a letter about their IDR book, but only once a week. Because we never want to get kids in the habit of where every time they read they have to write, because oftentimes if they're struggling readers, they're struggling writers as well, and you're just going to come up against a wall with them. So they did it once a week. I had colored 3-prong folders that you can buy at Target in the beginning of the year, and so I would just say red journals respond today, blue journals respond today. That way I only had to look at like 4 or 5 each night, as opposed to 30 that I would never touch. So, and I just quickly looked to make sure that they did it. I sometimes would respond back to them. Sometimes I would be deliberate in what I wanted them to write about, like tell me about the visualizations that you're making or any connections that you made. But I did. But I had to include that piece. I don't know if they've added something like that in for the new edition or not. But I think it's important. There has to be accountability with that IDR. What other questions do you have about making meaning? Yes?
Is the new edition still, like for 3rd grade, a 4-day lesson, or is the new edition just 1 day?
I looked and I don't remember. I want to say that it does stay the 4 because I was actually surprised. Let me pull it up real quick.
I noticed being the writer went to 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is still 4 days. Yeah, which does to give you some wiggle room and adding in all those other things. Yeah, 4 days. What other questions do you have about the current? Yes.
Do you know if the new version of Making Meaning, like you told us with the Becoming a Writer, it will align the standard with the lesson, either electronically or in the book? That's a big goal, at least in our school, is making sure our learning targets fit the standard. But what I've noticed in Making Meaning, you had to go back to your standards and kind of dig it out to put it in with the lesson.
You mean
Be very getting it wrong too.
aligning to Minnesota standards?
Yeah, Common Core.
So Common Core, yes. But what's happened with the core doesn't make any sense to me. But I thought we adopted the core so that everybody was kind of on the same page. Well, now what I'm finding out is that as you go to all these different states, they've all taken the Common Core, but they call it their own thing, and they've added. So that's one of the reasons why they can't put those standards directly in the book, because even though we've tried to get on the same page, it's not right. But I know you can go to the, and I want to say I read an email saying that that was already up as of the 24th of March, but I'm not sure. But if you go to their website, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, yes, you'll be able to find it the same way that you did the other one. Now, I know some states, I've seen reps who have correlated it specifically to your state standards, and that's something that we can look into. I know there is a thing at the top where it tells you you can choose a state, and so it may have already been done if that had been requested, but I know that's not out of line for them to do the work to get that done for you if that is something that you in fact need. That goes beyond what they already have. So we'll look and see what it has today to offer, and then we can go from there. Yeah, no problem at all. I agree with you. And I think it was just, once again, we thought everyone was going to stay on the same page. And not that any of the states, their standards are completely different, but everybody has a different name for it. and so it's, it's been interesting. Any other questions about your current Making Meaning? So let me show you what's coming. New genres have been added, so I know that mythology has been included. I'm thinking 4th grade. I know that comes into play there. They've added some plays as far as some of the genres because that needs to be addressed. And then I know that they did add a novel. I want to say it was added to 5th grade, but I can't remember. So those are some of the additions as far as genres are concerned. Making meaning vocabulary, and it may not matter to you, but it used to be that you had to purchase that separately. Now it all comes together, so it's only one price for both pieces. It still is your separate lesson. Do you have the vocabulary now? Oh, okay. So next year you will get the vocabulary component of it, which I absolutely love. I was never able to get through an entire lesson. It would take me a couple days to get through a lesson, but the things that they had the kids doing for vocabulary was so powerful, and I would actually see those words show up in their writing. I would hear them talking about it. So they're going to take the words that you've been defining in your Making Meaning books. A week later, you're going to do some more instruction with some of those words. Not all of them, but some of them. So they've already heard them. They've already worked with them. And so now we're going to go deeper into it. But all of the activities that they have the kids do with the vocabulary is a lot of it's oral language work. And so it's getting them to use those words in a sentence, to talk with their partner, to think about scenarios, or to what would happen if. So it's all actually using those words as opposed to, they have to use it in order to get them to really use it and understand it. So you will get the vocabulary piece to come along as well with your Making Meaning kits when you get the new edition.
Can I ask, does it look like this then? Does it mean day 1, day 2, day 3, or
Yeah.
to the week?
Yeah, it's day 1, 2, 3. I don't, because it would take me like a week and 3 weeks to get through a week. But yeah, I think it's just one volume, if I remember correctly. There's a Blackline Master, I think, that has like some tests. There's a review done like every couple of weeks. I used it like at the very end of the day. I'd tell them to pack up, meet me on the floor by your reading partner. And I could only get through like 5 minutes of it a day, but it was better than nothing. So it would take me a long time to get through the week, but I just had never seen anything like that transfer to their writing. Like some of the words they were using, I was in shock, even though I was doing it at such a minimal amount of time. So there's a reading assessment preparation guide. So for whatever standardized tests that your students take, there is a guide that's in addition to Making Meaning to help them prepare for knowing how to tackle some of those writing or some of those tasks that they're given that are with reading. Digital resources, once you look at the Learning Hub to see all you have for being a writer, all of those materials will be accessible for you for Making Meaning as well. Technology support with embedded PD media, the 2D barcodes that we looked at earlier that you use the QR reader for, those will all be included, as well as the interactive whiteboard activities. They also have a ton of videos and tutorial support that's on the Learning Hub, and the tutorial support that they have on there is based upon teacher needs. So if you guys all email them and say, we really don't get this component, they will create something for and put it up there to help you out in a video PD format. Technology extensions and mini lessons, similar to like what we looked at with being a writer, they've included those for reading as well. And then closed reading has been included as well, which is a big thing I know with Common Core, getting them to really look closer at a piece of grade level text. I know that they've included, you know how you have to have them compare like two different texts on the same time? They've done that. That was hard to kind of figure out on your own. They've included that. There's some standard that goes along with thinking about a historical event from two different perspectives, or from a first and second hand perspective. That's included in there. Like there's one on Jackie Robinson they were talking about that they did. So they've added a lot with that. They've made sure that all the standards are covered. And then they've also included the writing about reading, which you have in being a writer as well. But now you're going to have some additional pieces that you can use in your Making Meaning as well for that piece of it. Does that help a little bit? So they ship in mid-May, I want to say. So I don't know if you'll get your materials before you leave or not, but it's kind of exciting. But you're not going to have to throw away everything you learned with Making Meaning. Like you're just going to build upon that to go the next step. All right, so for the next at least 30 minutes, maybe we can build in a break as well. What I'd like to do is I'm going to have you dig deeper into a couple of the support pieces that are included, really get into them, really look at them, read the front matter that goes with them to really kind of better understand them. And then you would kind of become those experts that are then going to come back and share with the rest of us so that we don't all have to spend 30 minutes looking at each of those components. We can just really look at one, but still get the information about all of them. Does that make sense? All right, so let me tell you what the possibilities are going to be so you can think about which one is most interesting to you and which group you want to work in. And then, as I said before, we will end the day by making sure that you guys get online to look at the Learning Hub. So one of them is the assessment resource book. And so with that book, there's some really good information in the front matter. So you may even want to jigsaw that amongst the group of you so that you don't have to read the entire thing, but you get the whole thing. And then to really look at what is offered in the assessment resource book, to think about what your district is asking out of you for writing assessment and how this may work with that and how you're thinking about using it in the classroom. So assessment is one. Technology is another one. I do want a group of people to actually get on the Learning Hub, navigate through it so that they can be able to share with us what to do when we get online. So they'll be the last group to present, and I'll help you guys get your account set up. So I have assessment, technology, the grammar component. There's some really good stuff in there, just stuff that we never have enough time to go through. So I would like a group to look at the front matter there, read through that, and think about there's a couple different ways that you can use the skill instruction book and to think about how you might use that, how it could support your Being a Writer lessons. And then, I don't know if you need this one or not. Are you thinking that writing task performance guide then is not going to be applicable because you don't have a writing test? Okay, so I'm going to not worry about that one. So, 3 choices: skills and assessment. Skill practice guide, the grammar component, assessment resource book, or technology. And on these, I used them in another training. It kind of lays out like what pieces of that resource you might want to look at. It does say to kind of chart your findings. You don't have to chart your findings, but if you will decide as a group how you're going to share that information back to us so that we get all of the information that you were able to have a chance to thoroughly look at. So what questions, let me start first. What questions do you have about the task? So I'd like to give you an adequate amount of time so you really have time to explore it. So if I said like if we were finished with break included by like 1:45, does that, I mean, it's not like you're reading, it's not that long. And so once again, when it says chart, you don't have to chart anything. I don't have chart paper. If you would just, though, decide as a group how you're going to share that information back, we will start up at 1:45, so take a break during that time. 1:45, we will start and have you share the information that you have gleaned from that work. So, assessment. Who might want to work on assessment? I see one hand, and she can't work by herself.
Why don't you see who's in all the other categories?
We want grammar over here.
Oh, okay, so grammars here. Y'all can all work together. Okay, they all want grammar. Does anybody else want grammar, the skill practice? If you want grammar, head on this direction. Anyone for skills and instruction will be over here. Technology. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to put these in different areas. You have to do one of the 3. Sorry. So, if you want, hold on 1 second, grammar. You want to do it? Yeah. Okay, so if you are interested in the skill instruction, the grammar component, regardless of what grade level you are, you're going to head on to this side of the room. You guys all be working together. And you can divvy out jobs and who's going to look at what, that's fine. If you want to look at assessment, if you would stay here in this area, this will be assessment. And then if you want to look at technology, know that everyone will get a chance to do technology in a little bit. But if you want to be the ones to present the information, if you could meet me over there, I'm going to get you guys logged on first, and then I'll be back to help you guys as you need it. What questions do you have? All right, 1:45. All right, so if you guys want to go ahead and log on. Can I give this to you? You're in charge.
No, don't make me in charge.
Well, you're the holder of the directions.
I have to leave at 2, so that's why I'm like.
Okay, well, you're in charge until 2, and then. Huh? Oh, sure. All right, so just let me know when you guys get logged on. Here's a chair.
Are you still recording? Do we record? It's like